Rustle my papers.
Okay, I'm going to stop watching this video. We can carry on with the podcast. Hello and welcome to the Hackaday podcast. My name's Elliot Williams. I'm editor-in-chief of Hackaday.
And I'm Kristina Panos, assignments editor at Hackaday.
This is episode 202. This week we'll be talking CNC monks, Acrobot, bootleg merch, and the rise and fall of Megahex. Let's start off the news this week with congratulations to the winners of the 2022 FPV contest.
Woo!
Hooray! Yeah, this was a fun one. I don't know. I am personally into this sort of thing, and so I was pleased as punch to see some good entrants here. Let's see, there were 3 prizes from DigiKey, each one a $150 shopping spree. Thanks, DigiKey, for sponsoring. And the 3 big winners who got one of these was JP Gleise's Poor Man's FPV Journey, which included like a whole bunch of small devices he made that make his FPV life better, including a joystick to remote control adapter and some really neat self-made FPV goggles that use those curvy, lensy, mirrory things out of $20 alternate reality goggles where you mount your like cell phone up there. And then he 3D printed a whole bunch of parts to turn that into a sweet FPV goggle. What else? There was also ESP32 drone project, which is going to be a completely scratch-built quadcopter drone, and Scratch includes all of the control programming and the 3D printed frame and basically everything. The software that runs on the drone and on your phone to serve as a remote control are all basically finished. He's now at the point where he needs to get this thing in the air and start flight testing it, but I'm pretty confident that'll work out. And last of the 3 first prize winners was Mini FPV Speed Tank, which is just a little burner that zooms around your house, and it was super cute and super well done.
So cute.
Yeah.
And fast.
And everybody just loves it because it's cute and fast.
Speaking of cute, I love the train one. That layout is going to be epic. It's already epic.
It's already pretty good. Yeah. I'm personally most into is Perky's Rides, which was a 3D FPV one. And I've been experimenting around with 3D FPV stuff myself. And it's kind of cool. I went the cheesy way and got some goggles that support it already. So you just have 2 cameras, 2 transmitters, and that solves that. He did it with a Raspberry Pi and a stereo rig for that and feeds it to VR goggles, which is pretty cool. It's called Perky's Rides because it's the 3D FPV head and then all of the other little robot bodies that he made for it. And that's kind of fun. Anyway, a bunch of fun and interesting FPV projects here. Hope it inspires some of you to do this yourself. Oh yeah, and also in the news, Stadia says goodbye with Bluetooth and a crap game. This is a very saucy piece by Tom Nardi about Google retiring their game streaming service. And the silver lining here is that the controller has a Bluetooth mode, and as, quote, a gift from the Stadia team, Dan from Google has said that they will have the information on how to use the Bluetooth for the controller for your own purposes later. So, like, at least they're not orphaning all of the hardware out there, and apparently they're giving you your money back on games you bought because, well, the service is gone. But in truth, I think they're actually being pretty decent about it. But I also share Tom's kind of disillusionment with Google's extreme willingness to just like cut down something that they've already sold you and be like, oh, sorry, none for you. His caption under the like lousy worm game they put out where it says, thanks for playing, chumps, is it's just so bitter. So bitter. Too funny.
Whoa.
This is a journey into sound.
What's that sound?
What's that sound?
And then that brings us to What's That Sound? This week is a new sound week. And I'll tell you straight off the bat, Kristina, you will not get this one.
Oh, thanks.
Yet. And that might be a clue. What do you think?
I don't know.
Can you hear anything going on there?
I mean, it sounds like a daisy wheel printer in a noisy room, kind of.
Yeah, there's a lot too much background noise in this one too. I will say that it is basically impossible for anyone to get yet, but you'll figure it out soon. Well, if you listeners out there have a guess, head on over to hackaday.com/podcast, fill out the form, and put in your best guess for it. If you're still scratching your head, keep on listening to the podcast. I've also got a great story this week. Last week we had a winner. It was the sound effect from the video game Portal. It was the Portal gun. The winner was Blessed Custard Waffler. I wrote to Blessed Custard Waffler for a t-shirt size, and his dad got back to me. Blessed Custard Waffler is a 10-year-old listener to the podcast and avid follower of Hackaday. So
Awesome.
congratulations, Blessed Custard Waffler. We'll get you the smallest shirt we can, and we hope it fits.
The kids are all right.
The kids are all right. And his dad asked, "Is this your youngest listener?" And we don't, how would we know? But I think odds are pretty good. 10 is pushing the expected age of our demographics.
Youngest reported listener so far.
And if you think you are a younger listener,
Tell your parents to let us know.
oh, damn it, you're right. Now I can't curse on the show anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, I'm going to stop rambling and get on down to the hacks. Start off this week with the Carmelite monks of Wyoming building a medieval Gothic monastery using CAD and CAM. This is a fantastic view of what you would do if you wanted to build a Gothic building in 2022. It's really cool. They're kind of taking this ancient architectural style and updating it in the sense that they're building it with modern tools. And it's an order of monks who needed a building, and they bought themselves a bunch of professional rock cutting Prussiani's, the brand name. They're apparently out of Italy. CNC 5 and 6 axis rock cutting machines. And the machines themselves are absolutely fantastic. Up on their website, they've got a bunch of documentary sort of 5-minute, 10-minute videos that you should watch. There's some good explanation of what makes Gothic architecture, and it's basically, it was kind of a technological improvement in the 1100s, 1200s when they decided they could thin the walls down, but they were just figuring out where the forces go in arches and using flying buttresses and things to keep the walls from collapsing when they did. It's lots of thin filigree stuff and then really tall windows to let, comparatively for the day, a lot of light in and stuff. What you can see in some of these videos, one of them goes through the modeling process. And so one of the monks is there with his shaved head going through how he designs, one of the points on one of the spires, the finial on the top of one of the spires of this thing. It's really interesting. But, he's just using regular old 3D modeling tools. And then he hands it off to the dude who does the CAM programming. And then they hand it off to the people who run the machines and do the stone cutting and stuff. And it's really neat. And they're all working together. I think at this point, they've got a lot more stones cut than they have them set. And so you just kind of get all the pieces together, a bunch of stones cut and ready to go, and then you just start stacking them up on each other.
I was just reading about their terrible disaster in the block quote.
Isn't that great?
That's... I can't believe it's still going.
Okay, well, the disaster in question is that actually the first night they left the CNC machine running overnight, it was doing a bunch of 7-foot-long stone windowsills, and they came back the next morning and, quote, "The huge stones weighing several hundred pounds each had been thrown about as if a tornado had ripped through the machine. Stones were snapped and shattered, the fragments scattered around the inside of the CNC milling area. Apparently they had miscoded the CNC machine, and it was actually just ramming the CNC machine's head into the stones. Again, quote, almost as if it was a giant fist. The stones didn't stand a chance, but the same machine is still carving stones to this day, almost a decade later. Yeah, you have to admire machines like that.
Yes.
Slash respect, slash, step back from.
Revere.
All joking aside, there's some really cool CNC machining here. One of the machines setups they have is basically a lathe, except the cutting thing is like a saw disc, and it just goes and cuts slots in the stone, and the lathe turns it. And so they can kind of do a roughing pass on things this way by like cutting a bunch of slots, and then a guy comes through with a hammer and just knocks the thin pieces of stone out, and then they hand it off to another machine that then does some finer cutting, and then they hand it off to another one that does some finer cutting still and has a 5-axis thing, so it can get inside all these little petals and do all the ornate carving and stuff. If you look at the videos, it looks like the monks are actually having a really good time with this, and gives them something to do, keeps them out of trouble. But also at the end of the day, they're going to get a giant Gothic monastery building out of it.
For my first hack, I chose ZS Watch. This open source hardware smartwatch is as DIY as it gets. Boy, is that the truth. This is just amazing work, and it's open source to boot, as Tom says in the headline. It's MIT licensed. This is by Jacob Krantz, and the whole thing is built completely from scratch. It's just amazing. He didn't start with anything other than, the universe was already there. But it does what you'd expect. It watches, it tells the time, but it also monitors your heart rate, your blood oxygen level. It's got tiny haptic feedback, and it does smartwatch things like provide the weather and give you notifications and everything. It's good for 2 days on the battery, and then you drop it in, of course, the matching wireless charger, naturally. I just love the filament choice here, and despite the beauty and complexity of this watch, a second version is in the works with a touchscreen and a CNC'd case, and that's going to be amazing. I'm a fan of, as you may know, I'm a fan of physical buttons, but the current screen doesn't support touch.
All right.
So I'm on the fence about that. I can definitely see why you would want to eschew buttons if you could, but I personally like buttons.
Man, yeah, that's an amazing watch, and it's amazing how far we've come. Like Tom mentions this in his write-up. We've seen a bunch of open source watches before, but they just keep getting more and more and more capable and more refined. And the PCB for this is just littered with tiny little parts. So, good luck making one of these is all I can say. It's going to be, you'll work for it. You'll work for it. Well, this is the week of the sensor glove. We saw two flex sensor glove controller, like power glove work-alike projects this week. The first one comes from Gord Payne, and it's a flex sensor for a glove controller using an LDR, a light-dependent resistor. And this one's great because it's making the sensor itself, the flex sensor that goes over your finger and sees how far you're bending it, using the absolutely cheapest possible ingredients. And that includes some thin, aquarium tubing, a black sheath around it, an LED on one end, and the light sensing resistor on the other. Basically, you bend your finger and less light shines through, and that's detected on the LDR. Boom, done. Somehow, this was the first time I'd ever seen this before, and I thought it was really, really cool. And when I first saw the project, I was thinking, ooh, it's a fiber optic cable inside, and it's transmitting the light that way, and it's bending it, and some of the light escapes out the side. Because I have fiber optics and lasers on the brain. But no, it's just a hollow piece of aquarium tubing, and, the light bounces around on the inside, and it bounces around more when it's straight and less when it's bent. Turns out this has been done before, and if you look in the comments, I think the earliest post of exactly this concept on Hackaday comes from 2011, building optical flex sensors. I'll throw this in the show notes for you. And the fun thing about that is the person who did that hack was like, I'm finally posting this. I did this 10 years ago. So that one dates back at least to 2001. And Paul Dietz mentions in the comments that this is all work that was covered in a 1982 patent. And so we'll link that patent for you here too. It's just a good and obvious idea to make a flex sensor, and, no fancy parts. You can make one yourself for, pennies and make your own power glove. How cool is that? I don't have any need for a power glove, but I totally have a need for a power glove now. Like, I've got aquarium tubing in the basement, box of LDRs over there. I'm ready to go.
I want a musical power glove.
Yeah, see?
Why not?
Yeah, I'm not sure at all what I would do with one. And actually, that's basically the secret topic of our second Power Glove clone this week. Sensor Glove translates sign language, and this one uses out-of-the-box strain sensors over the knuckles and is proposed to do a sign language translator glove application. And this one set the comments ablaze. Apparently, in the deaf community, this is kind of a meme for bad hearing people's engineering solutions for problems that deaf people don't have. And you can read about the whole debate there in the comments. And I think everyone makes pretty good points that, like, A, this isn't going to be a solution anyway, because there are so many other nuances of sign language other than just what your hands are doing. But B, this isn't something anyone needs or wants. And it's a perfect example of kind of people trying to engineer a solution because they think it would be a really cool solution, but they're not asking the people with the problem who would want that solution solved if it's something they want. And this is kind of known as the engineer savior trap. And actually, Jenny List wrote a great piece on it that I'll also throw in the show notes here, back in 2017, where she was walking through a hotel room that was kind of half-assed their accessibility and started thinking about how she would fix it, and then stopped herself and said, hey, wait, I don't know what I'm doing here. Why would I try to fix it? What they need to do is get someone in here in a wheelchair and say, this needs to be done, this needs to be done, this needs to be done. There's a fantastic parody of these kind of devices done by a bunch of deaf people. It's actually in sign language. They turn the tables on the hearing people, and they have a hearing person wearing this like elaborate, horrible headset that will read his lips and translate it into sign language. And the whole thing is it's not mean-spirited, but it's a light jab at this whole, like, technology will solve all your problems, even problems that you don't have.
My next hack is BRTV-Z's 3D printer filament from reel-to-reel audio tapes. BRTV-Z first ventured into tape filament back in 2020 with VHS tape filament. And although we'll scream sacrilege at using even vintage-year tape, it's still a cool hack nonetheless, I think. Now, what they did was they figured out that if they twisted 7 strands of quarter track tape together, it makes a filament that will pass through a printer. It comes out kind of porous and brittle and rust-colored, but that's okay. Not every filament needs to be strong. Some of them can just be pretty. I like the result. I don't know about you.
Rusty and rustic and who knows what, right?
Yeah.
I've printed with wood filament, which has little wood bits in it. This is like that, but with magnetic rust bits.
I like the rig, too, in the inset picture. I just love it when people turn plastic waste into filament. I think it's great. I want to do it myself. We'll see if I ever do it, though.
Yeah, what kind of plastic waste do you have in abundance?
Oh boy, containers.
Yeah.
Number 2, HDPE.
Gallon jugs.
Usually.
Yeah, totally.
OJ.
Have we seen a pellet cutter, chopper, extruder? I know the precious plastics people do a lot of stuff with HDPE because it melts and reforms pretty easily. But I don't think I've seen anyone do recycled extruders with it. I'm typing in recycle HDPE filament and getting PET bottles. Yeah, we've seen a lot of soda bottle ones. And I'm looking for ones using milk jugs, using HDPE, because that's what you've got. And I've only found one article that we've covered where anyone's done that. I mean, I may not have them all. If you find a better one, throw it in the show notes too, listeners. But I'll throw mine in first, so we'll see if we come up with the same one. Recyclebot digests milk jugs to feed MakerBot. This next one, robotic Acrobot aces the moves, is one that is a project the likes of which you have probably not seen before. Daniel Shimu is a performance artist and does some acrobatics and circus stuff. He has done a lot of work where you throw people in the air using a person as a flying partner. And in this one, he claims his motivation is to, if you can't work with other people, you can at least build yourself a robotic dummy to do your acrobatic tricks with. I think it's just good theater, quite honestly. But it's a really cool looking robot. It's basically just 2 windshield wiper motors stuck into a mannequin. And it does some pre-programmed moves. I don't think it's reacting to him. I think he's got the timing down so that he actually moves with it. But there's a bunch of routines where he's holding up one arm and then it puts its other arm down and he holds it up. And it's a very well done act between him and the robot. He's definitely a hacker, electronic engineer, and mechanical engineer. And the video here, one of the videos we have linked is his performance, and the other one is how he made the robot circus dummy that he's performing with. It's just really fun. Hadn't seen his webpage before or looked through his video accounts. You absolutely should. It's full of fantastic, awesome projects, both circus related and kind of crazy performance noise art related. He's got this one piece where he cranks a bunch of bicycle wheels and then sticks cards in the spokes to play music. That's absolutely hilarious. You should totally check that out. He's got a great guide to programming and processing for visual arts stuff. Just all in all, pretty fun. But this robot circus act is definitely worth a look. You don't get to say that very often,
No. Oh, I like this timeline. My next hack is Yeltro's celebrating a decade of bootleg Hackaday merch. Now, what could be more in the spirit than making your own Hackaday merch?
Yeah.
This is about having something unique, something one of a kind. What's the fun in ordering a bunch of something from some website? Unless you're going to try to sell them, which we would like to gently remind you is against terms of service.
Well, it's against the law. Shit.
So Tom basically reminds us that it's very easy to make a screen printing rig. You basically just stretch window screen material against a frame and apply your pattern on paper with the negative space remaining, and Bob's your uncle. This person did it with spray paint, but there are certainly shirt-friendly screen printing inks you can use. Use whatever you got.
Yeah, totally. I was surprised reading the comments on this one that nobody started one with, well, actually, because I'm going to be that jerk. This isn't screen printing. This is a stencil. He's cut it out of paper. He's just using the screen as, to hold the stencil together, basically. I love it.
I was gonna say, doesn't screen printing, you need a squeegee?
Yeah, you need a squeegee, and usually you do a photoresist or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's another thing I've always wanted to do but haven't done yet.
Yeah, me too.
I actually have a kit for it. I still haven't done it.
Oh, see? But I have to say, this way is certainly easier, and it does solve that problem you have with stencils of how to attach the little floating islands. Here, they're just sitting on a screen, and it sprays right through, so.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is screen printing, but it uses a screen, it's printing. Totally kudos to Yeltro and this method, though, because it's simple, quick, and gets the job done. I also love the use of the super old school Hackaday logo. Well, I don't even know when we kind of rounded up the logo, and the wrenches are rounder now. The head's a little bit rounder. If you look at the SVG, it's a totally different picture than that one. That's that is the old school Hackaday logo. Get some respect for that too.
Well, the Instructable is from 2012.
True. Yeah.
I think it was about 14 that it changed. I don't really know.
Yeah, that might be right, actually. I'm going to have to dig up an old Hackaday logo and make one of these. Anyway, in case you want to put the Hackaday logo on anything, I threw some links in there to our own Arya's versions of the Jolly Rancher in SVG. Super easy to take SVG and put it on
Oh, that's nice of you.
a CNC machine or whatever it is you want. I can't believe I use professionally made ones. Like I wear professionally made Hackaday t-shirts around. That's kind of embarrassing in comparison.
How could you?
All right, I'll start off the quick hacks with Phil Greenland's swap the clock chip on the Mac SE30 with an AT-Tiny 85. Apparently the clock chips in these super old Macintoshes have batteries that are failing and getting gunk everywhere. You want to replace it, but it's not as easy as just putting in an RTC because the old design made use of the fact that the clock chips had a little bit of EEPROM in them. And so Phil emulates not just the clock signal here, but also the EEPROM so it can store parameter random access memory. Next up is a fairly long video project from Hacksmith's Industries. The man behind Hacksmith is our own former Hackaday writer, James Hobson. Megahex will give you robo-arachnophobia. This is kind of a failure and kind of a 2-year-long failure. The project is to build a 6-legged walker that can support a person out of 6 excavator heads that they got. And yeah, in the end, it's just not designed for that and it just fails, but they make it work anyway and then it falls apart irreparably. Triumph, failure, little of both. Chris Borga's Kirby Sucks literally is the cutest 3D print I've seen in a while. It's a solder fume extractor, but it's shaped like Kirby when he does that slurp everything up thing. It's just, I don't know. If you have to make a solder fume extractor, you have to make it look like Kirby. And last up, DIY magnet handling tool puts an end to placement errors. A super clever, super simple project by Eric Siders. It's basically just labeling magnets, but he has 2 of them. One where it only sticks to things configured with a North Pole and one that only sticks to South Poles. And if you've ever put a magnet into something only to discover that you've glued it the wrong way around, these devices are super simple and will save you from doing that ever again in your life.
My first quick hack comes from Hendrik, making the One Ring by electroplating gold on a 3D print. Now, I think this looks fantastic, and you have to understand this is a high compliment because I really dislike gold jewelry. Gold anything, really. I just don't like the color. I think it looks terrible on me. It looks good on other people. But I think this ring looks fantastic. And of course, the Ring of Power has to be gold. Gold, not white gold or anything. How did Hendrik make this? Hendrik, of course, started with a resin printer set to the highest quality and rinsed it thoroughly, used sandpaper to smooth it up, and then applied conductive paint. And then to plated it with copper first, and then nickel as a buffer between the copper and the gold so they didn't mix. Next up is Mocha's, an e-ink progress bar for your unborn child. Now, organically printing a kid takes time, but it's not nearly enough time to ready all the things and yourselves. So it would be nice to have a visual progress bar of the baby to really motivate you to build that crib and untangle your sister-in-law's mobile. This is just a nice graphic and it's made on an Adafruit mag tag, so it should be simple to replicate. Last up is John Petter Skagmo's homebrew telephone exchange keeps the family in touch in the house and beyond. Now this is essentially a glorified intercom system, but oh man, what an intercom system it is. Basically it's a bunch of landline phones on a private exchange, and the brain of this private exchange is a PIC32, which does the DTMF encoding, it generates ring voltage, and it provides a CAN bus interface. And I just love the daughter boards. It makes me really want to make something with daughter boards, just so I can have the satisfaction of clicking them into place, you know?
Yeah, I do. All right, that brings us to our Can't Miss articles. These are long-form pieces written by our fantastic Hackaday writing staff. And this week I'd like to pick a hacky article, Matthew Carlson's Puny Codes Explained. And puny codes are awesome. It's one more attempt to solve the internationalization problem. Unicode basically solved everything, but Unicode is hard to run over systems that are only set up to take normal ASCII, right? Because Unicode just uses, funny raw bytes. And the traditional solution then is to do something like a base 64 encoding. You take the whatever raw bytes and you turn it into something that's made up of printable ASCII characters. And that's what Punycode does. It uses actually a base 36, so just A through Z and then 0 through 9, and encodes the otherwise unprintable characters that way. And it uses this funny system where the standard ASCII characters part comes first, and then there's a dash, and then a representation of the Unicode characters and where they fit inside the standard ASCII part. And so it's kind of weird. He gave an example, actually, of München, which has an U umlaut in it. And so it's MNCHEN-3YA, where 3YA gets you the U with an umlaut and tells you which position in the string it goes. Oh. It's really crazy looking and makes it kind of unreadable if you don't have something to do the decoding for you. But the advantage of Punycode is that what it does is it lets you encode Unicode in an ASCII-safe string set, which, for instance, would work with the domain name system, the DNS system. So you can then have your browser decode this. So you can type something with an umlaut in, your browser will send the Punycode version of it out, get the IP address back, and then off you go. And this is where kind of the black hat hackers took over and it all went wrong. Because, for instance, there's a Unicode character for A in Cyrillic that looks a lot like the regular old ASCII lowercase a. And so you could substitute the one for the other. And he's actually got an example here where there are two URLs you can click on. Both of them say hackaday.com. If you look at it really carefully, you can tell, at least in the font I'm using, that one of the A's is actually different. But boy, if you're relying on looking at the URL and figuring it out with your own eyes to figure out if it's the website you want to go to, this kills that. And this is the basis of the IDN homograph attack, internationalized domain name homograph attack. And there's a whole bunch of these. And how to combat that is where we're at right now. Internationalization of domain names is, of course, super important for people whose languages don't use the standard ASCII characters. And that's like most of the world, actually, from Chinese to Arabic to Japanese to Amharic. I mean, you name it.
Amharic?
So yeah, this is an important thing to be able to do, but of course it's difficult because of the security aspects. And right now, I think the cleverest thing people are doing is browsers, when they come across Punycode, will alert you if there's a mixture. So if you've got like normal ASCII characters and then one Punycode for Cyrillic in the middle, or if you've got a bunch of Punycode for Cyrillic and then you've got a Greek character inserted in the middle, the browser will warn you that somebody's trying to get you. I don't think this is a solved problem yet, and I think that's too bad, because Punycode and these internationalized domain names has a lot of promise to be really, really awesome, but yeah, with great power.
For my can't miss this week, I chose my own. AI-controlled Twitch VTuber has more followers than you. Now first, let's unpack that headline a bit. We know what AI-controlled means, most likely. We probably all know what Twitch is by now, but if not, it's a platform where you can basically have your own TV channel. And VTuber means virtual tuber. Basically a person, instead of showing their face, runs their facial expressions through an anime character of some kind. And followers, of course, is a measure of popularity. So, and this person has 50,000 plus followers already in some small amount of time. The character that they built is called Neurosama, which is pretty clever. And Neurosama was born in 2018. when the creator Vidal made an AI and taught it to play the game OSU. And it's unclear to me whether the channel has been going since then or not. So what's going on here is that at this point, Neurosama is, well, I hate to say all but sentient, but Neurosama is getting there because Neurosama can play Minecraft and OSU and interact with chat at the same time. And it's not just weird robotic chat that you might expect. It's like actual snarky with it gamer chat, which is kind of scary. So as a Twitch streamer myself who shows their face and like does kind of a intense personal thing on live television, I say with air quotes, I was like, I don't know how to feel. I thought it was, I was offended. Ugh. But, that's dumb, because this is just a person doing their thing, and their thing happens to be, hey, I built an AI, and this AI can play games and interact with chat, and that's my thing. And that's gotta be fun to sit back and control. Right? That's gotta be, like, that's, A, it's a lot of work. B, it's a lot of ongoing to monitor both Neurosama and chat. And I'm sure that Vidal987 has mods, or did have mods. The channel is still down currently for violating terms of service in some manner. But, so yeah, I did a 180, and I think it's cool.
I think you just went meta on it. Everyone is reacting to people watching the AI, and you just realized that the cool thing there is that somebody made this AI.
Well, yeah. I mean,
think you win.
You can't forget that.
I think you win. So I actually had to download one of these videos to get some art for this, and I'd never seen the game OSU or OSU or whatever, and it is some intense like rhythm tapping game. It's like Guitar Hero, except instead of doing different notes, you're just doing rhythms, but the patterns that these people tap out are phenomenally difficult for a human and totally easy for a computer. I don't understand how this is a challenge or how it's even fair to play against an AI on this one, because it's just our human 50 milliseconds reaction time stacked up against computer's 50 microseconds reaction time. It's just not fair. But it is cool, like you say. Like, what does a gamer streamer do? They play the game and then they interact with their audience. And if you have enough free cycles, of course, your AI can do both simultaneously, and smack talk the competition while, typing. Like, it doesn't have the limitations of numbers of fingers that we do. So it's kind of really cool in that sense, I think. But yeah, I don't think I could watch it for much more than 15 minutes. Like, after a little bit, it's kind of like, oh, I get it. The one video I did watch, of course, was a person playing against the AI. It was apparently one of the best OSU players in the world, MREC. And it was kind of fun to watch him, the person, the human, struggling against the machine. I guess I actually fell for the human element after all. Stupid meat bags. But anyway, it's just a great idea, but it's also kind of so post-reality.
Yeah. One of the streamers I watched recently added an AI to their chat.
Yeah.
And that's been fun.
Fun in air quotes, or actually successful?
No, it's been interesting. You can give it art prompts and you can ask it questions. Yeah, it's interesting.
No, the art stuff is really fun.
What did I give it? Marilyn Manson Monroe the other day, and it was pretty cool what it gave back. Absolutely.
No, totally. So it got banned we don't know what it got banned for, but the comments suggest that it got baited into, Holocaust denying or saying absolutely horrible things. And that is possible.
That would do it.
I hope at least Twitch doesn't have a blanket ban on computers playing video games.
Yeah.
That's about it for this week's Hackaday podcast. Thanks for listening. If you want to join in the conversation or check out the links, head on over to the show notes, hackaday.com/podcast. And if you see anything cool or do anything cool, drop us a line, tips@hackaday.com. And until next week,
keep on hacking. Oh, are you ready?
I am.
So never mind.
Very good then.
Do, 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 do.
Ha! I did it in one take for the first time ever. Victory dance here on my side. I know it's true, but it still creeps me out.
I don't have to think about it. Go big or go home.
Damn Skippy.
Do I get a shirt? I want a shirt. I'll make my own shirt.